Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, for this month, AAHPI, Asian American Hawaiian Pacific Islander Month, the Heritage Month. And I'm going to talk about my family's influence here in the city of Oakland. And I'm going to cite a lot of stuff which is from our original writing of my great grandfather. This was done by my late aunt Jean Moon Liu, and Liu, not Lew. And this talks about a lot of different things that a lot of people don't know happened right after the 1906 earthquake, and how nearly 14,000 Chinese moved from San Francisco to Oakland. And there is a lot of racism going on in San Francisco, but also in the city of Oakland. And in the city of Oakland, because of the really large influx of Chinese into Oakland, there was the racism. The city of Piedmont was formed out of racism because they didn't want the Chinese, they didn't want people of color in their neighborhoods or interacting with them. And so there was, like I said, a lot of Chinese coming over from the San Francisco earthquake and now making their way to into Oakland. And my great grandfather had the Pacific Coast Cannery, two city blocks of property, and the cannery provided shelter and food for the Chinese who were fleeing from San Francisco because, number one, well, even my great grandfather, they were visiting China at the time when the earthquake hit. So they weren't in the United States, but they came back. When they came back, their San Francisco home was completely destroyed. All their valuables already looted and taken. And so my great grandfather Lew Hing came across into Oakland and reestablished the family in Oakland. What he first did was real interesting because this was the talk of the family, but then also it's documented right here in this booklet, the history of my great grandfather. And he purchased cash a home in Oakland, fully furnished. In fact, he needed a large home because he had all of his children and all their belongings. They had nothing, literally, because of the devastation from the earthquake, the San Francisco earthquake, and they lost everything. They came to Oakland, and my great grandfather Lew Hing, he found a home that he thought would be suitable. And so he walked up to the door, knocked on the door, and the resident who owned the home at the time, he told the person, and here's what's interesting: Chinatown did not exist where he ended up purchasing. This was a white community, and there was a lot of racism. But here's the thing: because it was an all-cash deal, that this person literally said okay to the amount of money, which in 1906, $3,000 was more than enough to purchase a home. In fact, my great grandfather, he ended up having 5 homes constructed for his children because he was going to go back to China. He was contemplating retirement at this time already, But yet the children, like my grandfather Thomas, um, he was going to stay in America. And so what ended up, but then also here's the other part, racism and the racist laws in place at the time prevented my great grandfather from being able to purchase property directly, because there was a 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act said that Chinese persons could not own property, they had no right to vote, and they could not become citizens of the United States, which is in complete conflict with the way the Constitution was written, that all men are created equal. Well, some are more equal than others. In fact, the white society said Chinese aren't even human. Yeah, they put us in a classification like chattel. And if you know what chattel is property. And so that's what ended up happening. But because of my great grandfather's influence with a lot of leaders in the city of San Francisco, plus a business partner who happened to become the mayor of San Francisco shortly thereafter, Sonny Jim Rolfe was a business partner of my great grandfather, and he influenced the Oakland mayor at that time, Mott, uh, and told Mott that it was okay to sell property to uh, the Pacific Coast Cannery. The and the cannery would own the property, and so that's what ended up happening. There was a lot of racism, like I said, back at the time, and where my great grandfather ended up buying this one block piece of property was in an all white neighborhood. It had even Santa Clara Avenue, even at one time, had a white covenant, and that was broken way back then. Because my mother, how I got all this information was from number one, my mother, number two, her brother, my Uncle Bob, number three, I had an uncle that was Frank Lew. Frank Lew, his family owned one of the five homes shortly just up the street from me. I was at 361. Frank, his family had 355 Santa Clara, and next door to me, 359. It was either my Aunt Rose or my uncle Ralph Sr. Uh, because 361 was my grandfather Thomas. Rose was his sister, his youngest sister, and so the home was in between the two brothers, if I remember right. That's what I was told by my mother. And then Ralph Sr. was at 357 Santa Clara, and then 355 was Frank Lew's family, and then there was one additional home, which my understanding sat empty. And here's what happened. All of these homes were built. The property was attained back in 1912, and the homes were constructed with all the best materials that could possibly be here in Oakland. And in fact, all five homes were framed in grade 1 redwood, the first old cuttings of the redwood trees that used to inhabit Oakland and the Oakland Hills. And so all of the homes, all five homes were constructed with redwood, and that's why they're very solid homes. They'll never have termites, because termites don't like redwood. It's the acid that's in the wood. but all 5 homes were constructed. They were completed, and imagine this: my grandfather. Oh, well, he didn't own a home because of the 1882 Chinese Exclusionary Act. But here's what happened in 1913. All of those titles for those 5 homes were transferred into the Bank of Canton, which my great grandfather had just become president of. And the Bank of Canton, while it had an office here in America, its actual headquarters was in Hong Kong, in China, or under British rule at the time. And so uh, when things really collapsed for my great grandfather, the United States government actually went after all 5 of those properties of the homes to seize those, saying that they were illegally attained and that they are they're going back to America. And the British, here's the thing about what was happening at the time. Since the Bank of Canton was headquartered in a British country, the United States had no power to force any entity in England to give up any of those titles. And so the titles were actually held in trust by the Bank of Canton, headquartered in Hong Kong. And while the United States finances collapsed, the British sterling silver did not. And so we were able to hold on to all 5 of those properties, deny the United States government from seizing those properties. And my family was able to hang on to those properties because they were held in trust by the Bank of Canton in Hong Kong under British rule, also under a different financial arrangement. And so United States had no financial backing. Their courts had no jurisdiction because the bank owned those properties and they were being held for our family. And it wasn't until 1946, right after World War II, that all the racist laws were removed and all the restrictions were removed, and all 5 titles could be transferred to the family individuals. Even though my great grandfather had passed away, my grandfather and my grandmother, Chin Shi, took possession and put their names on title of 361 Santa Clara Avenue. And so that was pretty much the only property that actually had the family name, from what I understand. The other 4 homes, while they were occupied to some extent by the family. Rose, who married Reverend Moon, they sold that property in 1946 to have the money to have their own built or create their own home elsewhere. Ralph Sr., who lived in 357, he sold that property and bought a home over in the Trestle Glen area of Oakland. And then, what was that, 355, Frank Lew, his family, and actually it was Frank, because when I spoke with Frank back in 2004, he gave me all the background on all 5 homes. And in 1946, when all the names were transferred or names were put onto the titles and taken out of trust from the Bank of Canton, and our family actually acquired those homes. A lot of those homes, 359, 57, and 55, and 53, they were sold. They were sold so that those relatives, my aunts and uncles, could take that money and reinvest it into a home elsewhere. But that gave them the footing and the foundation to really establish themselves and keep themselves here in Oakland. Also, because of my great grandfather, the cannery, we had several locations. I'm going to read an excerpt here. In 1904, Lew Hing established the Pacific Coast Canning Company in Oakland, and he purchased 2 blocks of land in anticipation that the cannery would expand. In doing so, he built the first concrete building in that part of Oakland and expanded the business. And the building still stands today, which is the PC Lofts. So, also, uh, the story, Buckskin brand was the brand name that we used. And it had a picture of Wild Bill Cody on the label. It was really interesting. And let's see. Okay, and in here it also talks about my great grandfather moved immediately to Oakland, where he purchased a furnished home on 8th Street in Oakland. Note 8th Street. 8th Street is very significant to the Oakland Chinatown and also to my family. Number 8 is a very auspicious number, so it's very lucky in the Chinese zodiac. So 8th, it was very important. So here on 8th Street, he purchased the fully furnished home on 8th Street between Alice and Harrison Streets, and situated at the location, which is now the recreation room of the Chinese Presbyterian Church. And so those were the early days. And my great grandfather, from what I remember, from what I was told, in 361, the home that I actually rebuilt, remodeled, and updated was the original home that was built for the family. And when I inherited the home, there was a portfolio with all the receipts, the labor hours, and everything that documented the construction of that home. And the entire cost of that home was $5,000 for the best possible materials. And this was completed in 1917, early part of 1917. What's significant about 1917 was that my grandfather, Thomas, and my grandmother, Bark She, they lived in the home. My uncle Bob was born in that home. They couldn't put their names on the title, but it was held in trust. So when they moved in, they didn't have to pay any rent. They didn't have to do anything. They just lived there. And I I was really saddened at that there were very few photos of the period, because back then photography was a new thing still, and the Kodak Brownie camera had not truly come out yet. That was in the 20s. That's when we start getting a few pictures. I have some really old pictures of my grandparents, who were really young at the time, inside of 361. So that's how I knew that they lived in the home. Rose lived in the home. Ralph lived in his home, and Frank Lew's family lived in their home. And then, like I said, I was always told there was one that was left empty, but they were all sold in 1946, except for the one that my grandparents stayed in until their passing. In fact, my grandfather passed in the home. Uncle Bob passed in the home. my Uncle Jim, who was my mother's younger brother, he passed in the home. So there was a lot of people that were born in the home and died in that home. So that's the history of 361. When I rebuilt it, the cost of redoing everything exceeded $400,000 of out of materials out of my pocket. That's me providing labor with my crew, and so um, we were a very, very influential family. Like I said, how I in a video earlier, I spoke about how Chinatown became came to be on 8th Street, especially, and the circumstances, because the Nimitz Freeway, Highway 880, did not exist back then. And in fact, that was a livestock yard. All of that area held livestock ready for slaughter at the slaughterhouses. The slaughterhouses were down in that district because it was next to the water. And when they bled out the animals, the blood was just drained directly into the estuary, and so that's why slaughterhouses were always near the water, because then the blood was always drained into the bay, and then the bay flushes it from there. So that's some of the early history. That's some of the things that my family went through. How we got housing. Uh, my great grandfather bought an entire city block from the then mayor, city mayor Mott of Oakland, and he was influenced and um, directed by Sonny Jim Rolfe, the San Francisco mayor of the time, to sell property to the Pacific Coast Cannery, not to my grandfather, but to the Pacific Coast Cannery. And so that's what ended up happening. And like I said, we had the formation of the city of Piedmont, a whites only enclave at the time, and they set very hard borders. They enforced it with their own police, not Oakland police, but their own racist police force to keep people of color out of their areas. And that was 1907. My family has been in Oakland since 1905. So, and then before that, we've been in San Francisco since 1868. So we've had a long run here in the Bay Area, and we still do. And next month, in the month of June, we're having a big, big family reunion. In fact, we're going to be talking about this. And my cousin Bruce Kwan Jr., he's going to be there, and this is his book. And then also, we have an outside author, Roland Huey, and this is his book. And I'm going to get Roland to sign this one because I want a signed copy. And this is going to be on June 15th, and we're going to be at Holly's Mandarin Restaurant here in Oakland on Piedmont Avenue. And also, what's going to be happening, hopefully, we have word about the Oakland mayor recall of Mayor Sheng Tao. And if that has occurred, I will be talking about what I'm going to be bringing to the table for the city of Oakland. I'm going to restore Oakland back to its regal prominence that it once had when my family was a real influence on this city. And we're going to make Oakland a place, a destination that everybody's going to be proud to be a part of, and they want to come here. So we're making changes because we have the experience. I have the experience. I have the knowledge. I have a vision for the city of Oakland, which city of Oakland hasn't had a vision since Jerry Brown. And that's what I bring to the table. I'm going to take care of the crime here. I've spoken to that fact as a lot of the solutions that I'm putting in place. We're also going to make Oakland a place that you want to come to for work, and not a place that you want to avoid, like the current situation right now. So things are going to change if you elect me, your next City of Oakland mayor. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.